Just a few comments about this practice we're doing now, the Shamatha practice, focusing on the breath in the area of the abdomen before we go back to the practice. So again, just reading from Alan Wallace's Attention Revolution on page 32. He says the following: meditation is a balancing act between attention and relaxation. Mastering this requires working to counter the natural reflex of trying harder or clamping down when you see that your mind has become distracted. Instead, as soon as you see that your mind has wandered, release the effort of clinging to the distracting thought or physical sensation, return to the breath and relax more deeply. Remember that the main point of such attentional training is not to stop thoughts from arising. Rather, it is first to relax the body and mind, then to cultivate the stability of sustaining attention continuously upon your chosen object. Thoughts are bound to arise. Simply do your best not to be carried away by them. So again, one of the main imbalances in the beginning stage of Shamatha practice is we're just getting constantly caught up in thoughts. So again, when we notice that we've got distracted, then no need to get frustrated or upset. Actually be happy you've noticed you've become distracted. And the very first thing to do is relax, because generally our tendency is that when we get distracted, we tighten more. So just first relax, then just release that distraction and very gently return to the breath without clamping down harder. So just simply relax, release, return. Keep coming back. And then one more point, and then we'll go to the practice. He says, the kind of awareness cultivated here is called bare attention, in which the mind is fully focused on the sensory impressions appearing to it moment to moment, rather than getting caught up in conceptual and emotional responses to those stimuli. So when we're focusing on the sensations of the breath in the area of the abdomen, we're not imagining the abdomen, we're not visualizing or anything like that. We're focusing directly on the actual tactile sensations in this area. And he says, as you attend to the abdominal sensations of breathing, mental images of your body based on visual memory are likely to arise together with the bodily sensations themselves. Recognize the difference between the tactile sensations of the breath as they appear to bear attention, as opposed to the mental images of what you think your body looks like, which are superimposed by your conceptual mind. As soon as you note the presence of these mental images, release them and direct your attention solely to the immediate tactile experiences of breathing. So again, here we're using bare attention. Again, we're not visualizing or imagining things, we're just focusing on the actual sensations directly. One more point, and we go to the practice, counting. So in the last session, we talked about counting the breath, that counting the breath is a temporary, short-term strategy that you may find helpful. So again, there's this cost-benefit relationship. The cost is that we are adding something to the practice. So the practice is simply to focus on the actual tactile sensation. So by adding this mental exercise of counting the breath, that's a cost. But actually, for many of us as a beginner, the benefit is that by occupying the mind with counting, at least our mind is not occupied by a lot of other distracting thoughts. So it could be helpful to help us to stay more focused. But at some point, as we go deeper into the practice, you'll find that that counting simply starts to become another distraction. So you'll need to let go of it. So only bring it in when you're heavily distracted and you find it helpful, and then eventually to let go of it. Now, there are many ways, systems of counting, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after this meditation. But in the last meditation, we were counting at the end of the out breath. This time we're going to count at the end of the in-breath. So you breathe in, then you mentally note 1. You focus on the sensations of the breath on the following out-breath, following in-breath. At the end of the next in-breath, mentally note 2. And so again, we'll count from 1 up to 10 and go back to 1. And then after like I said, after the meditation, I'll talk a little bit about some other variations of counting that we can use in this practice. Okay, so let's do that practice now. Again, 20-minute session. Focusing on the sensations of the breath in the area of the abdomen. So as always, we begin by preparing the body, setting the body into a state of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. And using the out-breath to relax and release any tightness or tension in any part of the body. Bringing your awareness to the area of your face and softening and relaxing all the muscles in the face. In this way, allowing the entire body to become completely relaxed, completely at ease. And allowing the breathing to flow naturally and effortlessly. and allowing the mind to come to rest in the present moment. And simply become aware of the rhythm of your breath. Now narrow your focus and focus on the sensations of the breath in the area of the abdomen. And using that bare attention, directly focusing on the actual sensations of the rising and lowering of the abdomen as you breathe. And maintaining that ongoing flow of mindfulness of the sensations of the breath throughout the entire cycle of each in and out breath. and to help balance the mind, to help overcome any agitation, tension or distraction, we can use each out-breath as an opportunity to relax and to release any distracting thoughts. And to help overcome dullness, drowsiness, sleepiness, we can use each in-breath as an opportunity to arouse and refresh our focus, to sharpen our focus on the breath. So relaxing and releasing on the out-breath and sharpening the focus on the in-breath. So let's again introduce counting the breath to see if it helps stabilize our attention. And this time we're going to count at the end of the in-breath. So at the end of the in-breath, mentally note 1. And then focus on the sensations of the breath on the following out-breath, the following in-breath. At the end of the next in-breath, mentally note 2. And so counting 1 up to 10, and then back to 1. And again, if you lose count at any time, simply go back to 1. So again, a short review before we move on to the next topic. So in the actual Shamatha practice, we're looking at these 4 topics here of qualities, objects, tools and faults. So remember, the qualities we're cultivating in this practice are relaxation, stability, clarity. And to really emphasize them in this order, that first really work with relaxation, and having established a more relaxed body and mind, then we can start to emphasize stability, as we've just done in this practice now. And then once the mind becomes more stable, then we can start to emphasize improving clarity of attention. So again, the roots, trunk and branches of a tree. Same analogy, using that analogy. And then the objects for this practice that we're working with this in this retreat is the breath, the mind and awareness. The breath, currently we're working with the abdomen, and we will for the rest of today work with the abdomen, and then tomorrow we'll work with the nostrils. And then on that basis, because I think most of you will probably find the breath more easy than the mind and the awareness, with that basis then we can move into observing the mind day after tomorrow, and then following that, the following day, resting in awareness. And then we're going to combine those 2 practices. And each one of those, of course, has its own unique benefits, particularly for us in the modern world. And we'll look at those benefits and, of course, those practices in much more detail in the coming days. And then what tools we use in the practice. We saw here the 2 main tools of mindfulness and introspection. We saw in this chart here that these 2 tools are often symbolized. The mindfulness is symbolized by a